Hello, and welcome back to Far Horizons Gaming. My name is Ben, and today we're going to continue on with some Suzerain. So last time out, we had a bit of a shorter video as we reached the end of the churn, but it was a pretty significant one as well. So we went through a meeting to figure out how to make our budget for this coming, the coming year. So I increased the law enforcement budget, maintained the education budget, cut the military budget, and increased the healthcare budget. So pretty much my thinking there was, I know I probably shouldn't be trying to take that sketchy dude's deal, but if anything comes back up, that I can try to take some of it and get a little bit more help with privatizing the education budget. As much as I don't want to privatize education, that's probably the best area to try to get some private funds to increase some of our infrastructure. So, who knows? Hopefully that'll work out. So our military guy totally flipped out on us. He's going on a nice bumbly rant about how we're going to all die. Rumberg is on the borders and they're going to invade us, but hopefully he's just super blustery, but we'll find out what happens. Yep, this thing's blinking. Let's see. So, military has decreased funding now. That's a new thing. And so we have decay in combat readiness and discontent in military personnel. Welfare, though, increased health funding. That's the only thing there in our country review that's changed. So that's good. Alright, let's go and move on to the next turn here. Yep, got an achievement. Chapter 1, President Reign. Nice. Chapter 2, A New Swordland. There we go. Alright. So, we have now officially moved on to Chapter 2. Let's see if any of those decisions from the last one come back to bite us. I'm sure at least a couple of them will, but hopefully not too bad. Alright. So, let's check out the newspapers here. From the Lockhaven Times, Lockhaven League of Women March. Hundreds of women, organized by the Swordish League of Women, marched and called for gender equality in the country. The group held signs highlighting the issues of domestic violence, the wage gap, maternity leave, and the sexist attitudes in the education system. Police forces quickly created a security cordon to protect the march after a large group of religious counter-protesters arrived. It's always religious counter-protesters. The calls for equality were drowned by the loud group of conservatives. The protests were a clear reflection of the division that surrounds the country. It also raises questions if First Lady Monica Rain's agenda to raise awareness and trigger change on the issue will bear fruit. Alright, and we got two articles here from Geopolitica, which I think is probably the one that's going to be talking about military. Yeah, absolutely. Alright, first article. Fogslandian Navy forces Agnolian drill ship to retreat from Helluland. Helluland? Let's go with Helluland. Helm Fogsland. Navy Chief Admiral Kurt Hexer on Tuesday said an Agnolian drilling ship was driven away from Fogsland's Executive Economic Zone in the Nederlander Sea recently, asserting that such activities will be dealt with swiftly and sternly. The ship entered the area without Fogslandian Navy's prior permission, they said. The illegal occupation of Helluland does not give Agnolia the right to claim the seas. Our stance has been that if you do anything in our region, you have to notify us or take our permission, the Navy chief said at a press conference, without elaborating further on the incident. Since 1950, there's been a permanent presence of the Fogslandian Navy in the Markian Sea region, mostly in the form of an anti-piracy force. Interesting. Experts are concerned about Agnolia's increasing forays around Helluland, which they believe may trigger a heavy response from Fogsland. And Arcasia is testing some ICBMs. Dwight Walker has announced the first successful Arcasian intercontinental ballistic missile test, which was conducted at a military site in the Nuam Atoll in the middle of the Oceania. The fired missile, codenamed Missile 4, flew several thousands of kilometers towards the direction of United Cantana, before crashing down at sea close to the abandoned radioactive Rostov Island, The missile test indicates that Arcadia wants to send a message to United Contana about island bases in the middle of the Oceania, while displaying that the Arcasian military technology has advanced. Will Arcadia be able to catch up to United Contana in the face of the growing contentious situation between the superpowers? Nice, that just sounds like some good old-fashioned Cold War posturing. Alright. Let's head to Benfey. Benfey Regional Airport overcrowded. We have been receiving reports about the capacity of the Benfey Regional Airport. The mayor of Benfey is preparing to put a request forward for an investment to build an international airport in the city. For a touristic region like Benfey, he claims it would increase the overall prosperity of Swordland. No, that's probably true enough. Alright. Is Suzerain. Massive network of BFF priests discovered. The Vice Minister of the Interior has reported the discovery of a large-scale underground network of the BFF that encompasses all cities in Bergia. Under the guise of state-sanctioned priesthood, the BFF has recruited hundreds and possibly thousands of nerdy worshippers, including non-British citizens, to support their cause for independence. A dozen arrests were made, but since most police officers don't speak British, it will be difficult to find the actual ringleader of priests for the network. A request was made to ban British as a language from sanctuaries. Interesting. And what is Nurity? Nurity is a monotheistic religion teaching that the only creator is the divine God and that Saint Dost is the divine messenger. It is the biggest religion in Marcopa and the third largest in the world. Interesting. So it sounds like, I don't know, Catholicism or something similar? Interesting. Okay. Narbel. Education in rural regions require improvements. Ciara Walder reports that the current education institutions in rural regions of Swordland have been largely neglected. As part of her analysis, the literacy rate in Swordland currently stands at 80%, while rural regions like Narbel has a literacy rate of only 64%. The lack of schools per capita also reflects these results. Alright, got two up north here. Lauren, military equipment outdated. The General Staff has performed an analysis on our borders to assess our military defense capabilities against a potential Rumberg attack. The results show that our military equipment is outdated and needs replacement as soon as possible. The continuation of the Waring report shows that in the event of an attack, our border would be broken through easily, leaving the primary regions of Swordland exposed. And report from Magnolia. Magnolia offshore drilling near Helye Island increased tensions. Magnolia has started a new drilling operation very close to the disputed territory of Helye Island. The tensions increased when the situation turned into standoff between Voxlanian and Agnolian warships. It took several hours for the gridlock to be resolved, and the situation was de-escalated for now. So is this... Okay, so be this island here, Helyeland. Helyeport. Nice, okay. Cool. Alright, so that looks like all of our ports for now, so let's head back to Whole Sword for the next story beat. And, ooh, nice. The Workers' Rights Act. Sign or veto the Workers' Rights Act that was approved by the Grand National Assembly. Okay, Workers' Rights Act. Section 1 establishes a minimum wage of 2.5 Swordish Ren per hour. Section 2 sets a weekly maximum of 60 hours of labor. Section 3 establishes a double overtime pay per hour after 40 a week. Section 4 determines that workers are to be protected against occupational hazards and be provided humane work conditions. Section 5 establishes that migrant or undocumented workers have the same workers' rights as citizens. If any employer shall not abide by these rules, they will be heavily fined by the government, and if not corrected, will face legal action. So signing that is going to put us in the red on our government budget, which is a problem, but at the same time, it's something that needs to happen, so I'm going to sign it. Okay, government budget, -1. Personal wealth is still at 1, though. Okay, alright. Got a couple news reports, probably in response to that. The Whole Sword Post, new law on workers' rights. The Workers' Rights Act has been signed into law by President Rain after the approval of the Grand National Assembly by majority vote on Monday following a 6-hour debate. Monsoon Lek, who campaigned heavily for the bill, also sought to express his gratitude for the confirmation of the new laws, saying it contained much vital rules and regulations for the workers, the backbones of our nation. The new law establishes minimum wage of 2.5 Suzerain per hour, sets a week of maximum 60 hours of labor, blah blah blah, the stuff we just read when we signed the thing. Okay, Lockhaven Times. Rain signs Workers' Rights Bill into law. The recently implemented Workers' Rights Bill caused initial protests against the government to mellow down after the Morbol mine disaster. Chants of anger have turned into solidarity marches. One of the spokespersons for the Nadam mining group has accused President Rain of acting impulsively with the bill, saying that it puts too much weight on the businesses. After the public announcement, Nadam has received hundreds of lawsuits from people around the country. It, of course, puts too much weight on the businesses. They have to actually take care of their people instead of just using them as basically like expendable labor. Alright, the radical Workers' Rights Bill signed. In a surprising move, President Rain has decided to do something right for his citizens by signing the Workers' Rights Act into law. Well, screw you too. This looks as a publicity move after the terrible Morbol mine disaster. The new law establishes minimum wage and sets a ceiling for the maximum amount of hours on top of new regulations for companies. Mr. Rain's move to give more rights to the workers has been welcomed by many. On the other hand, this may simply be a diversion from the actual real issues of the government. These guys are just kind of dicks, but that's alright. It's a newspaper. That's what they're meant to do. Alright, wow, we've got a lot of stuff going here. Okay. Well, I guess let's just start with this regional investment decision. Proposed regional investment to strengthen the weaker parts of the economy. Okay. Gus Manger and Simon Hall have prepared an extensive regional investment package to revitalize one of the top 3 economically fragile regions by boosting the municipality budgets, providing large sums of business grants, and giving cheap loans to companies with liquidity problems. Proposal to be implemented in one of the following regions: Berja, Lorraine, and Ineland, -1 government budget, or not. I want to, but we're already in the red, so I'm going to hit don't invest. Alright, got a bunch of things blinking again. Alright, so this one, turn 4, just signed the Workers' Rights Act. Country overview, Workers' Rights Reform. Passed Comprehensive Labor Rights Reform. And that's it in that one. Okay. So nothing new, so let's move on to budget allocation of law enforcement. Which we gave them an increase in their budget the last time, so I'm guessing we're just kind of divvying up like which departments get more money here. So, I was in my office reading reports from the ministries about the current situation of the protests. My next scheduled meeting was about the law enforcement budget with Nia and Lilius. I heard some knocks on the door. Nia entered and took a seat in front of my desk. Lilius was absent. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Lilius will be late. Apparently there's an urgent matter at the Ministry of the Interior she had to attend to. It shouldn't take long. Huh, what urgent matter? She said something about supply distribution for the police forces. Nothing major. I returned to my reports, and Nia smoothed back an errant strand of her hair. There's an awkward silence. While we wait, why don't we have a little chat? This might come off as a little strange, but I'm proud of you. Despite everything, you're actually trying to reform the country. It's we, Nia, not me. I couldn't do any of this by myself, so no, I'm proud of you. Well, thank you. You certainly have a way with words, don't you? I mean, kinda. Words are just words. Actions are what's important. And you seem to be doing well at both so far. Pros are canceling out the cons for sure. She leaned forward. How are you really holding up, Anton? Being the president, I mean. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's also the best thing I've ever done in my life. I can imagine. So much responsibility and so much power at the same time. I want to assist you in the country as best I can. And to do that, I have an idea. We need to eliminate the worst problem we have. Corruption. So finally you come to the point. What do you really want? Please, can't I hold a normal conversation with our president? As the Minister of Justice, as you can guess, I have a passion for justice. It's high time all guards in the Supreme Court stop holding the country in the palm of their hands. That's why I want to form a new unit, the Anti-Corruption Police. That's my idea. So, what if the Anti-Corruption Police get corrupted? I'm still figuring out the details myself right now, but of course there would be safety mechanisms in place. Also, one more thing. About Lilius. I wouldn't trust her if I were... She barely finished the sentence before we heard a knock on the door. Nia almost jumped in her chair. Lilius Groff entered the room.
Mr. President, Nia? I hope I'm not interrupting your conversation.
No, not at all. We were just discussing a few things. Nia smiled at Lilius.
I am sorry for being late. There's an important matter at the Ministry. Just a small dispute over who should get supplies. Nothing major.
Lilius took the seat next to Nia as she continued talking.
Well then, let's go straight in. We'll provide a brief update on the situation of law enforcement.
Yeah, go ahead.
Nia?
The Ministry of Justice and the Supreme Court is working in close collaboration with the Ministry of Interior to address the protests in the country. I must add that thanks to the hard work of our judiciary, the law enforcement forces assigned to my ministry are doing the job sufficiently.
I would call it the success of our forces on the ground, not due to the judicial branch of our government.
Lilius shot Nia a brief, withering glance.
As expected, the government increase has boosted morale of the employees in the law enforcement agencies. In these dire times, my people and Nia's people are especially delighted. This came as a pleasant surprise to many in the Ministry of Interior, since it was not even one of our campaign promises. And for that, all I would say is, bravo, this was an excellent decision.
Agreed. At the Ministry of Justice, we are very happy with the decision as well. The backlog of the court cases are dwindling, and we have started to fulfill the needs of the current situation. Certainly a step in the right direction. Thank you. I'm glad you approve. Nia nodded.
Yeah, of course. Well then, let's move on to what we're actually here for. Due to the budget increase, we can start doing much more as the main branches of security in Swordsland. However,
a decision has to be made about the budget balance between the Ministry of Interior and the Ministry of Justice.
Exactly. Deciding, you must look at the bigger picture. I believe you'll make the right choice and pick the Ministry of Interior.
Alright, well, why should I pick the Ministry of the Interior, you old bag?
The Ministry of Interior is a much more significant and important government agency that has need of the funds, especially during these times where there are many protests in the country.
Good luck prosecuting criminals going through local government laws without enough judges, Lilius. Okay, well then, Nia, why should I pick the Ministry of Justice? Every day the stacks of legal cases are piling up for judges. Cases for corruption and criminals are delayed due to a lack of funds.
It seems to be that it's an organizational issue, but not a funding one. The Interior needs some money more for the police and the government.
Alright, well, what if I just decide to, not make a choice and decide to balance the budget between both of you?
Balancing the budget won't help as much. The current situation clearly demands that a decisive choice be made to benefit the nation.
I agree. We need to focus on one ministry to achieve tangible results. Of course, what would make the most sense in the current situation would be to support the much-neglected Ministry of Justice that would improve the legal system in Swordsland.
Tell me, Nia, who brings the criminals before the justices? Let me answer. The police forces connected to Ministry of Interior.
Alright, well, I'm ready to make a decision. What will it be? Lilius and Nia leaned forward. The funds will go to the Ministry of Justice to reduce the court backlog and improve the justice system.
Bad decision-making.
The right choice. It was time the Ministry of Justice got the funds it needs. A brief moment of deliberation passed. Lilius got up from her seat.
I must return to the Ministry to implement necessary changes.
Very well. See you soon, Lilies. I need to have a few words with Mr. President. Lilies left the room. Here's my proposal. Corruption has always been a major issue with any government. It is the root of all evil. That's why I'm proposing the formation of the Anti-Corruption Police. As a sub-branch of the Ministry of Justice, the ACP will be given full authority by the President to investigate corrupt government officials and citizens. This would especially come in handy when dealing with corruption in higher positions. The Supreme Court and oligarchs that meddle in politics are just a few examples. If you accept, this will give our administration the ability to deal with corruption quickly and decisively. On the one hand, I really like that, but at the same time, it also sounds like, I don't know, like some Joe McCarthy type bullshit. Or some Russian, thought policing or something. But at the same time, we're going to go for it. Very well. Form the anti-corruption, please. Excellent. I'll start the prep work. I'm making good decision after good decision today, Mr. President. I'll be in touch. Nia got up, left the room. It's a slightly sketchy decision, but I'm going to roll with it. Okay, so, country overview. We got increased justice funding and anti-corruption law. Okay, anti-corruption law is a new legal initiative under the Ministry of Justice. It's part of the anti-corruption police. Nice, okay. In order, now we have the anti-corruption police as an active policy, which will hopefully help combat this corruption as one of our big red flags there. Alright, let's go over here. The codex. I don't know. Thinking about something. Alright, do we have any other reports? Nope, just 2 newspaper articles. Let's check those out. Lockhaven Times. Richter calls President to action. Head of Sordland's main opposition party, People's Freedom and Justice Party, Franz Richter, has said President Rain needs to address issues like churn limits and electoral threshold if Sordland's democracy, freedoms, and economy were to be developed. Richter also talked about the need for educational reforms and expressed his support for Minister of Education, Ciara Walda. Well, I also support educational reforms. So I say I'm hoping I can figure out how to get some of that private education funding to help boost that. And I included term limits and lowered the election threshold in the reform proposal. So hopefully that'll do something. Okay, economists. Recession is growing faster. With double-digit unemployment and plunging economic output, the recession has been a reality for a long time. But if there is any remaining doubt that Sordland is in a recession, it's now been removed by an announcement from the Business Council of Sordland. In the announcement, the Council pointed to the unprecedented magnitude of the decline in employment and production and its broad reach across the entire Sordish economy. The economy shrank by 2.4% in the last month and lost further value against Arcasian Liara. Cool. So our money's just losing more value here. Alright, well, hopefully this will be a slightly more wholesome activity than all this death and corruption. An evening walk with Monica. It was early evening, still light out with just a faint nip in the air. Franck was at a friend's and Diana was at an art class. Monica and I decided to go out for a walk before dinner. Our favorite place for a stroll was the nearby Capitol Park, the largest green space in all of Wolsord. Before the children were born, we had spent many an evening engaged in deep conversation along the riverside promenade. Another favorite path wound through the woods behind the presidential housing complex to a private pond where the children could swim in summer. I was told that Sol himself had it built. Benefits of being president. Monica met me by the door, and we put on our coats and hats. I was going to suggest we walk towards Sol Square. The guards told me it's been closed for yet another protest. I wonder who they're protesting this time. What does it matter? They're two sides of the same coin. The Anton I knew in university never would have said that. Funny how becoming president changes one's perspective. In any case, where should we go? I'm not sure Capitol Park's a wise idea in this climate either. You're right, it's not worth the security risk. Let's stay inside the gates.
I agree. Let's go then before the children get home.
I informed the guards about our route and we left the house. The guards followed at a discreet distance as we headed towards the walking trail. As we entered the woods, Monica broke the silence.
So, how was your day?
Paperwork, endless meetings, the usual nightmare.
I don't know. I imagine some might find that stimulating.
I hope yours was better.
Oh, it was fine. I caught up on some reading while the children were at school.
Just outside the gate, I glimpsed Jonas Krona, the former Minister of Justice, walking towards Capitol Park. I remembered that Nia Morgna used to be his vice minister. He didn't seem to notice us as he walked by. Jonas had once fought hard and strong against Seoul's judiciary reforms, but after years of the government blocking his every move, he gave up on his ideals and became part of the administration. What did our ideals really mean if they could be changed so easily? What about the people we idolize?
Evelyn also came around for tea. She says hi. She was feeling rather low, though. Apparently she and Peter had a bit of an argument.
Peter's in the doghouse again? How'd it happen?
Well, apparently Peter had too much whiskey, as usual, and didn't behave when Evelyn's father was over for dinner yesterday. You know, Peter, what do you think of this?
Well, that's Peter for you, perpetually pickled. I'll talk to them.
Good. Evelyn seemed close to tears.
Oh, that's not a very friendly response. Go with this one. Aren't you glad you and I don't have those kinds of quarrels? Monica didn't say anything. We kept walking. Nice.
No, Evelyn hasn't been the same since what happened to her at Wholesale Post last year. You remember how she got fired for supporting Alonzo? Peter tried everything to get her job back, but it didn't work.
Sad day for journalism and free speech in Swordland.
I completely agree. A sad day indeed. But enough about the Vectrans. I also spoke to Janice on the phone.
Who?
You remember, my friend from university? We were in Swedish literature class together. A few years younger than me, red hair, scar on her forehead. I ate dinner with her and her husband once or twice.
Neither their name nor the description ring a bell. Right, that Janice.
Anyway, she's been working as an executive assistant at the Violet Pictures film studio. She recently became pregnant and asked her boss for paid maternity leave, and guess what? She was fired for it.
After asking for maternity leave? That's terrible.
I know. I was beside myself when she told me, and that's not all. I immediately replaced her with a younger, less experienced man, the son of an executive, no less.
Nepotism, eh? They must want him in there all along.
That doesn't justify what they did to her.
And I didn't mean that it was justifying it, but okay.
As it happens, another friend works for television stations hiring secretaries, so I connected the two of them.
That doesn't solve the deeper problem, though.
Exactly. I knew you'd be on the same page. Women in this country are still seen as wives and mothers first, human beings second. They're harassed at work, underpaid, blocked from positions of power. Those are the lucky ones. The fact that there are still places in this country where little girls like Diana are denied the right to an education.
Yes, and I will do what I can to change that.
It can't just be you. These little girls and people like Janice need someone to speak on their behalf. A role model, a successful woman.
We had reached the pond at the end of the trail. A park bench overlooked the water. Monica gestured to it, and we sat down.
Which brings me to my point. I know that the mayor of Anrika, Curtin Less, will be delivering a speech at the annual opening of the Benfey Festival. My wish is to take his place and deliver the speech instead.
Les was one of Swordland's most influential politicians. He had started his career in Benfey before rising to power in Anrika. Benfey's current mayor had personally invited him to make the opening speech. Replacing him with Monica would likely anger him. Not enough to cause a major incident, but enough that he might not support me in the assembly.
I want to base a speech on women's rights in Swordland, on the oppression and discrimination we face every day on the basis of our sex alone. I want our voice heard, and this festival is the time to do it. I just need your blessing as my husband and the president of Swordland.
Monica's eyes were blazing with a fire I hadn't seen since we were students. She wanted this badly. But I had to be careful with my promises. Does it have to be at the festival? Why can't you make your speech some other time?
It has to be now. Thousands go to this festival, millions watch the speeches at home. Swordland's women can't wait any longer.
Alright. You have my full support. Always.
This is why I love you. Thank you, Anton. You have no idea how much this means to me.
Monica beamed at me, her face flushed with excitement.
One way or another, I want to contribute to this country, no matter what happens. We are not weak, Anton. We are only strong as long as we stand by our ideals.
This is why I had married her, this passion and resolve. I should have anticipated that sooner or later she would join me in the political arena. We rose from the bench and started making our way back home.
Otherwise, we'll end up like
Colonel Soul?
Say what you will, that relic of the past was, and frankly still is, one of the most idealistic people in Swordland. Guess again.
Evald Alfonso?
Our former president tried his best. Yes, he failed, but his ideals weren't the reason. Take another guess.
Jonas Krona?
Exactly. He backed down on his ideals, now everyone knows him for what he actually is. Spineless.
If that was how people remembered Jonas, how would they remember me? Whatever he had done, whatever ideals he had lost, he must have had his reasons. Would they remember me as a true patriot, or reformer of the country? What would they write about me in the history books?
Let's get back to the house for dinner.
Of course, lead the way. Monica smiled.
You know, I believe I will.
When we arrived home, I called my secretary Olivia and asked her to inform Mr. Less that Monica would be making the speech in his stead. The sun began to set over the horizon, bathing the clouds in shades of orange and pink. Cool. Alright. Our journal updated. Monica is taking over at that speech, which is interesting. I'm not sure how the president say will just be like, yeah, no, sorry, dude. I know you already have your bill set up, but my wife's taking over instead. That kind of sort of seems like some presidential overreach, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. Alright, so it looks like we've got a lot going on here, but I think I'm going to go ahead and call it an episode here for today. So if you liked the episode, please like and subscribe. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.